Hi, welcome to The Real Men of Real Estate. I am your host, Tunde Ogunwole. We have another exciting episode. In this episode, we're going to focus on why you should not buy or sell with reduced commission companies. I am joined by Brian Fox of Fox Realty Group, Steve Matley of Coast to Coast Equities, and Jeffrey Brogger, of founder and CEO of Steezy.Digital. I'll open up the discussion to focus mostly on the pitfalls of having these reduced commission companies. I'll kick it over to you. What are some of your thoughts?
Well, some of my thoughts, and when we're talking about reduced commission companies, just to be clear, there are companies out there today that will offer 1 or 2% listings, reduced commission listings, and they'll help you to buy a home for reduced commission. You got to be careful there. You don't always want the bargain. And the real estate agent is a consultant that can help you in your local market to find something that not only meets your needs, which of course you can go in and type in the 3-bed, 2-bath under a certain dollar amount and you can find things online, but also past that, they'll be able to take you all the way through and help you to see some pitfalls in the property that maybe these reduced commission companies are just putting blanket averages over things, or if they're not a seasoned agent in the area and they just want the deal, they might not be able to see some of those things or actually help you to get to your goal as a consumer. And Brian, I know you have a lot to say about this, so I don't
have anything to say. No, it's not even my subject. Yes, this is a ridiculous topic. So, okay, here's the thing. When it comes to this stuff, it transcends every industry. So, in real estate, it's a very ambiguous topic because there's no master training program, there's no collegiate degree, there's a license you get in a couple months, maybe, if not less, and then you're qualified to do the same job as everybody else. In any other industry, you would never be having this conversation with anybody because you would not go to plastic surgery world to get your eyebrows done. It just wouldn't happen. You'd be looking for the best, most qualified person to give you the right work for whatever you're trying to accomplish. In this business, it comes down to transcending of what is valuable. Why am I trading this value? If I'm trading you a value of 3, 4, 5, 6%, whatever the number is, what is my gain from doing that? Okay, if I was buying a car, and like I said earlier, if I was to sell a truck, sell a Mercedes, sell a BMW, and I listed it for $10,000 less than what it should be worth, the only calls I'm getting are people who think it was an accident. What am I trying to pull? Because the reality is they understand there's value present. They understand that there's value. So if you're an agent and you're charging less, that tells me that you either do not know your value or think you have none, or maybe you have none. And the only way to get that business is to charge less than the other people, because that's your value proposition, is I am adequate for what you're accomplishing. I can charge you less because I have low overhead and low expenses because I haven't been in business very long, or I just run a giant game like Walmart. And nothing wrong with Walmart. I shop there, I shop at Target, but there's a difference in those prices simply based on your presentation of what you go into the store with. Another one would be Bloomingdale's, right? Or even Pottery Barn. The prices go up based upon your experience and your perception of what the value is. And if you're working with any kind of an agent who's actually going to actually have an effect on the value of your property, your experience, and how you make it out the other side, they're gonna charge you for it because there is a dynamic difference. There is like 10% of the agents hold that ability. The rest of them are wandering around trying to figure out how to get the next deal in. That is not how you do it.
Right.
So get educated if you have to, but that's not it.
And Brian, you mentioned that it's unique to real estate, but I come out of an industry that had the same problem. It's the lowest bid mentality, which is construction.
Okay, yeah.
Think, every contractor, they're all created equal, so as long as I get the cheapest one. We have learned after many lawsuits and defects and problems and fires and collapses, you don't hire the cheapest contractor. They probably miss something. The bankruptcies, when they're halfway through the job, they tear the place up and don't come back. You never want the lowest bid. Sure. And the industry actually on the commercial institutional level has shifted over to design builds and negotiated contracts because we don't want the lowest bid anymore. And here real estate is looking at trying to go to a model where you're going with the lowest bid for the commission. And I agree with what you're saying is that when I see an agent saying, well, I can do this for 1%, I can do this for 0.9%, I can do the point, and we start doing the underbidding. Right. My question is, why do you believe that you have so little value? Yeah, right. You must not be planning on doing much to serve me. So what is your game here? And as you mentioned, there must be something wrong with you as an agent. I'm thinking you got your license last week, or maybe you're on probation with the real estate department. For some reason, you got complaints against you, and you're trying to drum up business because you don't have anything else going on. So all you have is the undercut. That's the mentality I have from it.
True. Right. So the thing is that if if anybody ever said that to me, I would say, like, I totally get it. They should charge that. They should charge exactly that or less, because that's exactly how much they're putting into this deal.
And you mentioned Walmart. So there's some things I will go to Walmart to get.
Totally.
Okay, soap, toilet paper, paper towels,
boxes.
That's fine. What I would not buy a set of golf clubs at Walmart and expect them to be high performing equipment, would I? No, I'm going to go somewhere and spend 10 times as much on a set of golf clubs if I want a decent set. I know Walmart sells it for the person that's never been on a golf course
you
in their
bring up
life.
a great point. In a real estate transaction, which is a high dollar transaction, hundreds of thousands of dollars in commercial real estate, or land values are in the millions, you wouldn't look at the lowest cost to describe the value. I guess what's unique about agents, or maybe the different platforms that are commission-based, maybe there's a misunderstanding of what the value proposition is for the agent. So, Brian, do you want to talk about that? What makes an agent strong and competent and capable so that they can describe themselves a little bit different than those low-cost alternatives?
So here's the one thing. It's hard to put into words 100% of the time, but for me, the easiest way to accomplish the idea of it is a really good agent, let's say a good representative, because that's what they are. They are a representative of your interest. A good representative, you don't know what they're worth until they're required to show you. You really don't. It's like insurance. You don't know what that insurance policy is really worth until something happens, and then you know. I was teaching in a class not too long ago, and I heard, and we go through these dialogues so people can understand what they're trying to say to people, so it's conveying properly. And one of the girls had said, Mr. So-and-so buyer, 40% of transactions fall out. I'm like, what? We don't have transactions fall out because we put them together in a way that we protect the interest of our client, so we're moving forward with the deal. If anything happens because they decided, but we kept the terms in their pocket, not the other person's. These things are things you learn over time, but if you're asking how to tell people to tell the difference, I think the first would be is, if they're charging that low, just don't. If you're trying to accomplish something, unless you're in a completely spiraling out of control upward market. That's and here's and you'll probably touch on this too. In an upward trending market, it is very easy to accomplish a 1% because everything is selling. You almost have to do nothing in that kind of a market. Now, there are things you can still do as an agent like myself, others, to influence it more and get even more money, but the reality is everyone's a winner. But guess what? That's when all the agents get their license too.
And that's what makes it relevant, because in markets like these where people have experienced a lot of success and you've seen values go up, I guess understanding where are we in the market and what type of agent do I really need and what resources are important, I think those are some of the considerations that people are making.
So touching on that real quick, the online things. I want to talk about, and I want you to say first, holding on to market share, and that's why they're charging 1%.
So the online companies we're talking about? Yes. So for the 1%, the online, they don't have as much overhead, right? They're tech companies and they're trying to replace the agent. Now, I own a company that is assisting the agent to be a better personal brand and to make things more efficient for the agent. That way, they can serve clients better. So these tech companies that are trying to replace the agent, they'll undercut and do a 1% commission, and they're attempting to increase market share, take sales away from agents that are in different counties and states around the nation. And so it's a really interesting phenomenon that we have going on right now, because we're in a period of transition. And I think it comes back to a simple analogy that everyone can relate to. So when you're getting your hair cut, whether you're a guy and you're going to a barber, you're a woman who's going to a salon, this is a low ticket sale, but it's something that's personal to you. Are you going to go to the cheapest one and go to a different one every time? Or are you going to go to your tried and true barber or your hairstylist that you've been with for 5, 10, 15 years and pay top dollar? Probably the latter, right? And the reason why is because not only is it important to you, but this is something that you trust them with and that you will go back to them over and over again. So a real estate agent, that's something that you can build a relationship with over a period of years, not just with the first sale, but then when you sell that house, and then when you move, and then when your brother needs something or your sister. And so having a company take care of all of that for a reduced commission one time, you don't get that human consulting feel and the relationship.
Those are really powerful points, Jeffrey, and you really highlighted, even though these real estate transactions are high dollar transactions that occur every once in a while, there is an ongoing relationship that real estate agents provide, and you'll come back to them later on in your life. So with that, we're going to take a brief break. You're watching The Real Men of Real Estate, where we talk about all things real estate.
If you love them enough to relearn math so you can teach them math, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
You made your house a reality. Homeschooling yourself on loans, color-coding listings, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. If you can ace house hunting, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.
Welcome back to The Real Men of Real Estate. I'm your host, Tunde Ogunwole. I'm joined with Brian, Steve, and Jeffrey. We were talking about why you shouldn't use low-cost alternatives or reduced commission companies and how real estate agents can explain their value. Brian, I'll kick it to you so you can tee that up a little bit.
Well, and so where we were leaving off, I wanted to talk about quick. So we were giving an analogy of a haircut, and I totally agree with that analogy. And Steve, you were saying, actually saying, I didn't say it right.
Well, before the break, I was thinking, we didn't have time to get to it. When Jeffrey mentioned that haircut, he was saying, well, this is something you do on a regular basis where real estate's not. But let's take it to this next level. For the ladies out there, let's say it is the hairstyle you're doing on your wedding day. That's a big deal. Are you going to the cheapest salon in town because they got the best price? Pretty sure you're not doing that.
Every haircut's easy when it's all buzz, man. When you're just shaving your head, everyth's a Bic razor. It really doesn't
resemble
matter.
that remark.
So, but on top of that, what we're talking about is the idea of reduced commission. Honestly, the other side of it is I agree with why this is happening. I see an opening for this in the marketplace. I understand why it's there. It is totally normal. When there is this complete separation between what we think we're getting and what we think it needs to be, why pay extra for it, you know? And so there's this big gap and there's this big opportunity for people to come and say, well, we don't think there is one either because there's this lack of education of what those services look like. If you look at the top 5, 10, 15 complaints people have about real estate people, it's communication, it's ability to negotiate, it's all the stuff that they want people to have. They're like, well, I guess no one has it, so if they don't have it, we might as well pay this, right? Because this is what that technically is worth to me if you can't do it. The problem with that is that there is a giant population of people who hold all of those skills. The conflict there is not all those are people you really want to work with, right? So there's the other conflict of, do I like this person and they have those skills? So what this needs to be is an understanding of what real value is. So what most people think they're hiring a real estate professional for, they think it's because this guy really knows my neighborhood. Oddly enough, he's just the guy that's really good at sending mail to your house. That's why you think he knows your neighborhood. If you look at any market, I can't say every market, many, the majority person is a vast minority. It's 60-70% of the entire market is owned by people who've done 1 or 2 deals. Typically, a lot of the highest sales in the area are a random one-off because of the property. So how do you inject value into what you're doing to say, this is why I'm actually worth more than that? Some of it's marketing, but the reality is the biggest marketing companies are online and they're getting into the real estate sales game. So it's really not about marketing. So if it's not about marketing, what is it about? It's about customer service model and presentation. Those 2 items combined for me have been the dynamic difference in what our clients come to expect as far as what we're going to do on the other side. So they're choosing us because we're going to give them accurate, truthful, very educated information of how we do it, how we're going to do this. And what is this? It is how we make your house more valuable, or how do we get you a better deal, and here's how we negotiate and hold your money protected as we're going. If you can explain those things, actually, this is great. I have a client who handed me a brick about this big of stuff and just landed it in my lap and said, hey, this is everyone who came and interviewed before you. Can you take this? And it was like a box full of these crazy presentations. Crazy, like box presentations, which people do in art. Mine was 5 leaflets I printed to show them what's going on, and we talked the rest of the time. Because it isn't so much about this flash that we all think it is. It's about, do you have enough information to tell me the truth in a way that I understand it? Can you educate me so that I know what my goal is? Versus, do you even know what I want?
Right.
Is it's about you? And I think that's the main thing people get off topic. It's the 1% because it's not about me, it's about you.
I was going to say that the customer service and your actual knowledge, not just your presentation, I think is critical. Also the track record. I think they can get some of that information about track record when they're talking to a knowledgeable broker or somebody who really knows what they're doing, who can communicate the value, communicate what they're going to do with their property. And I know, Jeffrey, you do assist those top agents in terms of describing what they can do and what their track record is. Can you want to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And I'll be on a little bit of the flip side of that and kind of praise marketing in the day that we have it right now, because with video, we're able to do some amazing edutainment. We can educate and entertain with video, and you can actually prove value. You can really educate the consumer, and you can get them to the point where they're like, wow, this guy really knows his stuff. And they're so bought in to not only how you interact with consumers based on them watching your video or them watching some kind of, or listening to a podcast, like I know agents that have podcasts, they can be so bought in prior to even calling you that first time that a lot of that nowadays can set you apart from other agents that are doing the onesie twosie. If you've been doing something for 20 years and you have a lot to say and you're constantly putting that value out there into the marketplace, it can attract the type of consumers that tune into that. They can see that value.
I agree with that.
So in a previous show, we were talking about construction, but we talked about the three things you have to balance out, and that's time, money, and quality. So these online reduced commission type outlets, obviously the only thing they have to compete on is the cost, the money. That means there must be sacrificing quality, and they must be sacrificing time. Probably take you longer to get through because you can't work directly with your agent. Your agent is in fact the term agent. Agent means that they speak for you, they talk for you, they represent you, just like an attorney would, right? Now, I don't know this for sure, but I'm going to guess that every once in a while a real estate transaction ends up in litigation. Do you think it may happen every once in a while?
Every once in a while.
Okay. Why do you want to be represented by some faceless cyber whatever when you actually need a physical human being who has been part of this transaction to help protect you from going there?
That's a
for
great
number
point.
one.
That's a great
and number
point.
two,
People
someplace to
overlook
go
that.
to if that ends up blowing up in your face, because they are your agent. They are the person there to expert to represent you. They have E&O insurance. They know your transaction, and they should know your property very well. And just like you don't want the attorney to, when you've been accused of a capital crime, you don't want, well, I don't want to pay $50,000 for an attorney. I'll get the guy for $2,000, right? You're not going to do that. Your real estate agent, real estate's a big deal for most people. It's the
Right.
biggest investment they'll ever have. Why would you go discount?
And Brian, I know that on other episodes you've talked about the downside. We're obviously talking about cost control, and some people want to save $1 or so, but you talk about the downside, and that's what Steve's really talking about. If a deal goes sideways, having an agent that you trust, there's a lot of value, and that's something that people often don't consider. You want to?
There's a whole nother part of this that has nothing to do with commission. It has to do with, one, earning of equity, and two, saving of the downside. And the downside would be if they can't negotiate something properly, you could lose a lot more in the deal than you think. And that's not just on the listing side too, that could be on the buying side. If you have a listing agent working for you, not really emotionally involved in this process, doesn't really know the ins and outs of how to negotiate in the market you're in or anything else, they might just take money off the top from you, and that could be the exact same money you thought you were saving.
Exactly.
It can come back and bite you
Totally.
later on. And it's not just the money. How much time do you spend wrapped up in these civil cases? It just eats your life up.
Well, in some cases, but it's funny is that most people, they say 7 years average people turn a house. Most people I know, other than ones who like the advent of going on and doing it over and over, they're going to do 3 maybe in their whole life, maybe, if they don't go through a cycle that's bad. 3 times is all you have to invest in this process. I would choose someone who's got it for those 3 times.
So how do they know what to look for? How do you
Actually,
know?
I agreed with what Jeff said, and that's so it wasn't so much about marketing the properties, which is what I was referring to as marketing the properties and how do you change their value, but it does change the perception of what the person's worth. And if they can actually get their information out and they can explain it, I would say anything that someone could tell me as, let's say, an objection or rebuttal, not an objection in the form of I don't agree with paying. It's not a sales pitch. It's, can I educate you out of this? Can I explain this in a way that it makes sense to you? And I would not go with anybody who is only quality of access, their only USP, unique selling proposition, is how pretty they look from the outside. This is the guy. I've got a number of those in my market, and they sell probably 70% of what they put on the market, which means 30% of what they put on is just mud hitting the wall. It's not going anywhere. There's no strategy to it. And this is nothing about us, but I can't do that. I cannot take a client and say, look, I'm going to represent what you're doing. Let's just see if it sticks. Let's just do that. Sure. I mean, it doesn't cost me anything, and it's still 2.5%, 3% because I'm the biggest guy. That's why you should pay it. And that proposition is not good for me. It's, can you develop a strategy that says, okay, if we're a marketing advertising agency, you're Coca-Cola. Who's our customer? How do we go forward from there? That's my thought.
Any other thoughts around the panel?
Well, I believe that real estate agents can separate themselves and also insulate themselves from the iBuyers, the people that are looking for reduced commissions and things like that, they can insulate themselves from documenting what they're doing. And we talk about not creating content but documenting, and that is exactly what we're talking about when you can show the types of knowledge and how you treat clients. But also, I just want to point out that some things, if consumers go for an iBuyer, they might not recover from. And for example, if they put a house on the market that's overvalued and it sits for 60 days, you can't recover from that, because then people start asking what's wrong with it. And
that's a powerful point. That's a powerful point. And with that, we'll take a quick break. And you are watching The Real Men of Real Estate, where we talk about all things real estate.
If you love them enough to relearn math so you can teach them math, then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
You made your house a reality. Homeschooling yourself on loans, color-coding listings, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. If you can ace house hunting, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.
Welcome back to The Real Men of Real Estate. I am your host, Tunde Ogunwole. In this episode, we've focused on why you should not use reduced commission companies and agents communicating their value. I'll go around the table and final thoughts and lead with you, Brian.
Sure. So I want to say this. I'm not talking poorly upon people who charge less. If that is your unique selling proposition, that's totally fine. But I think what's going on is there's this separation between what you think you have to offer, what we think an agent should offer. And I think it'd be good to define that. And a lot of it may revolve around marketing or presentation or any number of things that you'll do. Even if you honestly have your phone on you 24/7 and say, I will literally answer my phone every first ring, that's better than saying, I'm willing to do this for 0.5% because I've got nothing else to do today. So let's just see what happens. And if you're a consumer and you're trying to pick somebody, I think that it'd be good to really look at the education of that person, in the form of how many years they've been doing this and what is the general consensus of their ability, and do you like them? Do you like working with them? Because you're going to go into the trenches with this human being. I'll have clients that I work with for years on one deal because we're trying to find a specific thing. We're into it together. By the time we're done, we're at each other's Christmas parties and things, because that's what you end up doing. You're not going to want to be carpooling with this person for a long period of time if that's not the case. So my suggestion would be is just kind of outline your ideal of what that is, and know if we're able to make the joke that everyone's in real estate, you can probably find someone that fits the bill.
Steve?
Well, my concern, and we've touched on this during the show in a lot of different ways, is the idea that your only thing you have to offer is a lower price. Mm-hmm. I don't eat the cheapest food. I don't drive the cheapest car. I don't stay in the cheapest hotels. I want something that works. I want something that's reliable. I want something that I would never hire the cheapest consultant. And what I see when someone places a value on themselves is they're telling me that they have decided that they are the lowest value person out there. Mm-hmm. And then I have to decide, is that important to me to have the lowest value person because I'm cheap? Or do I want someone with more value because I don't want all the headaches? I want someone that is educated, experienced, they think on their feet, they're creative and innovative, they know their business. That's who I want representing me in transactions that involve hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars when I'm doing real estate. That's who I want in my corner. I don't want the cheapest person.
Jeffrey?
Yeah, so on kind of a different note, what I was saying right before we wrapped up on the previous break is, with iBuyers, with reduced commission, whether it's an agent or a company, if they're working with the seller and their estimate is a little bit off, 3 or 5% on a $500,000 home or $1 million home, I mean, that's $25,000 to $50,000. And so if these estimates are off, which a lot of times they are, and they put it on the market over value and it sits, that actually affects the property long term, because then if they take it off, put it back on, it shows that it was previously on. And an agent can help you get through all of this, and an educated agent can communicate their value and can help to sell a property, price it right, create demand around the property, and actually in up markets sell it for more, in down markets actually get that sale and having a good person that you like, but that also knows what they're talking about, just like Steve was saying, I mean, it's essentially priceless, but in this market, there is a price for that, and that's paying that 3%, right? That's paying maybe 3% on either side, so that you can get the entire thing handled with a bow on it, and you have someone that's representing you.
Oh, I love those thoughts because in the work that I do, typically I'm thinking of team. Who are the members of my team and what are they bringing to the table? And a commercial real estate agent is one of those critical members of the team. We're here on a panel as a team talking about all things real estate, and we're looking at the value of the team member. And the agent is just that. We talked about that earlier in the episode. The agent is your representative. Do you want to do that online, or do you want to do it with the low-cost provider? And if something goes sideways, do you feel comfortable in that relationship? On a team relationship, on a high-value transaction, finding somebody who's really competent and capable and doing the research, whether it's shows like this or looking for websites that have competent information or doing some due diligence to really find out who are those best team members as a real estate agent, that's something that we're always looking for in our interactions and our transactions.
And the real estate agent, if they're the right one, can bring you the right team members, because
Right.
they should know the best title, the best escrow, the best lenders.
All members of your
and
team.
they'll help you
for
put
that
the right team
transaction.
together, and
Absolutely.
that's worth its money.
It's worth all of it.
The thing for me too is that, if I could speak to the agents in the audience at some point, one of the things I would recommend is getting in there with customer service first. Have their best interest no matter what it is, and I tell people about this, and when I teach is that the Apple Store has 0 salespeople. Not one. If you notice, they're all just customer service people. They take no commission, best of my knowledge. But they outsell almost every store in the mall by that same token, because we actually are consumers by trade. We love to shop. We just hate to be sold.
Fantastic. Jeffrey?
Great point, and I do have one thing to touch on with that. They don't have salespeople, but they have phenomenal education and marketing.
Yep.
Fantastic. And we see this show, The Real Men of Real Estate, as one of those platforms to help educate those people out there. I want to thank all of my panelists, Brian Fox, Steve Matley, and Jeffrey Brogger. I'm Tunde Ogunwole. You're watching Real Men of Real Estate. I'm signing off.